Welcome to our continuing series, Questions and Answers, from the works of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Today, the Force and the Divine Force, Part 1. From the Mother. The mind and vital have a very bad habit. When one has succeeded through aspiration in having an experience, being in contact with the divine force, immediately they rush forward to make it their own property. You see, like that gesture, as a cat jumps on a mouse. And then they catch it and say, "It is for me." And then the mind turns it into all kinds of speculations and affirmations and constructions, and takes great pride in it. And the vital uses the power to fulfill its own desires. So, in order to avoid this, it is said that they must be clear, quiet, peaceful, and must not rush at the force which is trying to manifest, and make of it a tool for their personal use. For the mind to be clear, it must be silent, at least to a certain extent. And for the vital to be clear, it must give up its desires, have no desires and impulses and passions. This, indeed, is the essential condition. Later, if one goes into details, neither of them should have any preferences, attachments, any particular way of being, or particular set of ideas. Question to Mother. Mother, last time we read, it does not matter what defects you may have in your nature. The one thing that matters is your keeping yourself open to the force. Mother, if one has defects, how can one open to the force? Mother replies, I think everyone has defects. So if it were necessary not to have any defects in order to be open, nobody could be open. One always has defects to begin with. One is not made of a single piece. This is the main reason. There are many different parts in the being which sometimes are quite independent of one another and take hold of the consciousness almost in turn, and sometimes even in an altogether regular order. So, when part of the being has goodwill, and already has a kind of perception of what the divine force is, you see, this opens the being and puts it into contact with this force. But it is not always there. There are other parts which come to the front, which have defects, bad habits, and which can veil the consciousness completely. But if one keeps the memory of the part which was open, one can keep the opening all the same. Though outwardly the part that is active is not particularly interested and not even able to understand, but the other part can continue to be open and receive the force. Sweet Mother, here it is written, the personal effort has to be transformed progressively into a movement of the divine force. If you feel conscious of the divine force, then call it in more and more to govern your effort, to take it up, to transform it into something not yours, but the Mother's. But if one is not conscious of the divine force, Mother, you must become conscious. Aspire, ask, aspire sincerely. You see, generally speaking, you are here. We have a class. We have just read something. You have questions to ask. While you are here, you ask questions and think of the subject. But as soon as you go out or go home, you think of 1,000 other things, don't you? So how do you expect that you will become conscious of the divine force? We have hardly about half an hour here. That's not a very long time to become conscious of the force. But if it is your sole preoccupation, if truly, with all your being, you want to become conscious of the divine force, you will be able to. You can't simply because you think about it from time to time. When the subject comes up, you ask yourself, why, it is true, how can I do it? And then the next minute you don't think about it anymore. So how do you expect this to happen? You must be very attentive. You must be very silent. Must observe yourself very clearly. And you must be very humble. That is, be willing not to play a great part in all this story. The misfortune is that usually either the vital being or the mental being or even the physical being is very anxious to play a part, very anxious. So it swells up, takes up a lot of place, covers the rest, and it covers it so well that one can't even become aware of the presence of the divine force, because the personal movement of the physical, the body, the vital, the mind, covers everything with its own importance.